They rinsed their clothes as a sign of mourning and grief. And so we carry on that tradition, and rather than rending our clothes, which some communities continue to do, we have a ribbon. And the ribbon symbolizes that we are and that the fabric of our lives is torn. Yours is on the right because
it's not wrong.
No, it's
okay,
correct.
Okay.
But that's an excellent question. So for children, grandchildren, it's worn on the left side because that's closest to our heart. And it said that the nuclear between parent and a child is like no other, like as close to us as our beating heart. Yeah, he can wear it on his right side.
Oh, he's a child?
No, on the left side for a child.
Okay,
left side for a child.
Right.
So we recite these words, Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Nevarach, God has given, God has taken, Baruch Nayan Adonai, blessed is the true judge, acknowledging that you are ultimately Traditionally, this would be worn for 7 days, and some continue to wear this forever. So whatever you chose, good for you. Some people will take it off, sometime after this. Whatever feels right for you.
Thank you.
No, we're not.
Oh, we're not.
So we said, yeah.
That is Joel here, Josie.
Yes, he's there on down. Okay.
Where do you want to?
I'm
You
going
want me to go?
back there.
Okay.
I sit back there.
I'm going to take my mask off so I can enunciate a little bit better for all who are unvaccinated.
Me too.
The Hebrew word for funeral, levaya, means accompaniment. In death, as in life, Judaism stresses the importance of our connection to one another, to our family, to our friends, to our community. So we always link our lives to a larger family and community. We gather together today as family, as friends, as community, locally and also across the miles. You are all with us today to accompany Joel to his final resting place. And we join together so that we are not alone in our mourning as we begin to plant the seeds of memory watered by our tears of loss. For Joel's life that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for his companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and his mind that brought us joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. May the words of the psalmist give us solace, acknowledging the comforting presence of God who is always with us. And feel free to join me in reciting the 23rd Psalm if you know it. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It is said, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to dance and a time to mourn, a time to keep silent and a time to speak. And so now is the time that we remember Joel. Now is the time that we remember the love that we shared and the memories that remain with us. Joel Berger was born on August 23rd, 1938, and he died on March 14th, 2021. He was the son to Matthew and Frida Berger. May their memories be a blessing. He was a beloved brother to you, Perry, and to Rose. A loving husband to you, Alana. 43 years you shared love and companionship. And he was a beloved father to Elizabeth and Jonathan, Christopher, Zachary in California, and Joanna. And he will be remembered by his loving grandchildren, Rob, Ruby and Lola, Evie, Ella, where's Ella? And a great-grandfather too, to Bodie and Q. And he is survived by other relatives and friends. And we know that he was also much loved by his devoted caretaker, Mika. As we remember Joel's loves, his prides, his joys in life, and his special character, I think one sentence says it all. He was a man who was generous of heart throughout all his life's successes and challenges. As a loving father, you all mentioned that he was supportive of his children and grandchildren's endeavors, and even at times, with stringency, his intention was always to help those he loved to succeed and thrive. And he was a mentor as well, such as with his grandson Rob, who is a Navy SEAL, and in recent times, when he has been making new career choices and life decisions. Alana, you told me about how Joel studied business and law and then became a very successful businessman. And his life and work and passion in the field of real estate and all that real estate encompasses, real estate and investment, financing, says much about his character and what gave him meaning and fulfillment in life. As you mentioned, Joel loved finding real estate treasures, and saw the potential and the big picture, where things might not be initially evident, whether there was an undeveloped location or a small island. He saw the potential of it and took pride and derived so much fulfillment from these pursuits, not only as a builder of properties in those areas and as a developer, but also as the marketer and the lawyer and the financier, all who made it all happen. And you mentioned that he had a keen eye, both for computing strings of numbers in his head or calculating a mortgage. He had good instincts and insight in owning and investing, and perhaps most important were the people associated with those investments and those real estate connections. He loved the people and his employees and the local communities in which he invested. He wanted to share his interests and his success with others. And with his own success, he took care of his employees, and they worked with him forever, as you mentioned. He had empathy for others. He was generous and concerned for what others needed. Joel was thought of as dynamic and charming. He cultivated a zest for life and shared that always with you, Alana, and with others. So whether it was a good laugh, good food, a good pastrami sandwich, or a glass of wine, a romantic comedy played over and over, that would make his day. Joel was also a dapper dresser, even on Yom Kippur, when the tradition is for everyone to just wear white. But a stylish look on the high holidays is also in keeping with Jewish tradition. Joel was a people person. He wanted to see the action. He wanted to be part of it. Connections were important to him, and he made friends easily. So if you sat next to him on a plane, Joe Siegel, for a couple of hours, you got off the plane together, having made a new friend. Joel enjoyed playing tennis. He loved basketball and poker. He loved watching sports and making wagers with his kids on different sports teams. And Alana, you were the golfer in the family, and Joel could get frustrated, as we all do, playing golf from time to time. And while it may not have been his thing, he joined you because golf was something that you enjoyed, and it was something that you enjoyed doing together. Now, he could make a hole-in-one out of a ball hit into the lake, because while you would be out finishing a round of golf, Joel was off looking at golf course property and even bought a vacation home in South Carolina just to surprise you. Joel's Jewish identity and heritage were important to him and grounded him with values of kindness and empathy, sharing the good that came to him and his family with others. He had empathy and a heart for people who hurt too. He was kind to those he met, both to the stranger on the street or someone he knew who was struggling. He was a generous man. And Alana, you spoke of, in recent years, Joel contending with heart trouble and the irony, given his good heart, his generous spirit. There's a story in the Talmud about a rabbi who asks his students to go out into the world and find out what it is that people need to have a rich and fulfilling life. And so 4 of his students go out, and one of them comes back having looked out in the world and says, to have a rich and fulfilling life, one must have a good eye. insight and perspective. Another student comes back and says, being a good friend, having those friend connections and being able to get along well with the people who are close to us. A third comes back and says, being a good neighbor, the one who can be counted on in the community to contribute and to support and enliven the community and it can make sure that it is stable, and to have a strong connection in those community relationships that are so important. And a fourth student comes back and says, the key to having a rich and fulfilling life is to have a lev tov, a good heart. And the rabbi says, I will accept the fourth student's interpretation, a lev tov, a good heart, because it encapsulates all the others. We will remember Joel as a lev tov for his caring and generous spirit, his kindness, his accomplishments, his positive impact in so many areas and with so many people, his mentorship, his love, and his good heart. So we'll take a few moments to let a few other people share some memories, both the family and a couple of friends. And so I'll call on Elizabeth at this time.
I keep it together. Okay. I've been on the scene since 1960, and for all of my 61 years, I'm proud and grateful to say that I had a great pet. Our times together were filled with belly laughs and quiet moments, and both were great. Dad always made an effort to keep us together as a family, and Rob and I looked forward to every occasion. I remember the times we vacationed at really cool destinations like mansions and beachfront villas and cozy cottages. Always some amazing, wonderful place where we had the best family vacations anyone could dream of. Vacations would start with a welcome evening full of hugs and smiles at the traditional big shop. Dad was always very excited to see everyone together. And then we would go Cat Key, Bahamas, Palm Air, Palmetto Bluff, Old Greenwich, Ponte Vedra. It was a perfect time every time. Dad and Alana made it happen for us every year. Thank you, Alana, for those wonderful nights. At our evening dinners, when Dad glanced around the table and saw the loving faces of his growing family, I know he was filled with pride and happiness. I hope we will continue to celebrate Dad's legacy of family and take time together at special occasions every year. I will miss so many fun parts of my dad. Hearing his contagious laugh, that gleam in his eye when he had gin, the way he would say, "Hiya, Liz." Thank you for all of it, Dad. I love you.
Thank you, Liz. Beautiful. Joanna?
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I'm, as everyone knows here, Joel's youngest daughter, and I would like to read the words written by my brother Zachary, who can't be here, out in California. Dad, you have always been the most positive, solid, and influential force in my life. The times you were there to guide me, catch me, teach me, love me, and above all, support and instill confidence in me are innumerable. You have shaped me in ways which you guided me throughout life and its inevitable pitfalls and challenges. You could dole out tough love, better than most. But in the end, a hard and fortunate lesson was there to be lived and learned, and love always prevailed. Everyone who ever knew you well knew that most of all you possessed a keen and tough sense of right from wrong. This often spoke to the truth of any given conversation, thought, and meaningful interaction. You seemingly had an endless trove of wisdom gained through life experience that you were not afraid to share and advise from. You cast a large net, Joel, not just among your immediate family and close friends, but also with other people who came in and out of your life, including business partners, business associates, clients, employees, and many others. Your life was rich and colorful, and you undoubtedly left your mark on life and also on all those you encountered. I wish we could have spent more time together these last few years, but my cup runneth over with lasting memories of times well spent together and with our loving family. As I grow older and now have a family of my own, I realize you have surely left an indelible, positive effect on me. This governs and will continue to govern my life's decisions and endeavors to pursue happiness and life as you did, Ted. I am sure the rest of my family appreciate and feel as I do. And in that way, we will think of you often and hold you dear and continue to love each other in both your name and spirit. Love, Zachary.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, John.
You got through those words.
Jeez. It's going to be a tough follow. I think mine's going to be a little bit of a counterpoint to what Liz and Zach have conveyed, but I feel the same way. Dad, around 10 years ago, we arranged a quick lunch together in the city. You'd actually drive in, park, and we'd find a cool place in Chelsea where I worked. Incredible plethora of places to choose from, actually. I look forward to memorable one-on-one sit-down experience. But on the way in, you called and said, let's go get some dogs. Or should I say dogs? I can't say I wasn't disappointed, but the decision was made. I had mixed feelings because while we shared a love for snappy dogs, I knew you weren't supposed to eat them. More on that in a minute. Since carts were hit or miss, I suggested Papaya King on 23rd and 7th, and that was like music to your ears. I hopped in the blue Range Rover, and minutes later we pulled up. Get me 3 with muss and kraut, and get whatever you want, my treat. Upon unwrapping your first, you removed the dog and ate the bun. Almost as good with the juices. Those buns were gone in literally a minute and a half, and we were done. I can't say we didn't get our memorable lunch experience in Chelsea, that's for sure. And I'm going to miss sharing those experiences with you, Dad. You taught me style, grace, class, and most importantly, how to be dignified. And at the end of the day, the essence of life is super simple, Mr. Gucci. And it's not any one thing, but whatever it was, sharing with family and friends is essential. I love you, Dad.
Thank you, Chris. This is a remembrance from Joel's friend Mitch Quinn. He writes Joel a letter. Joel, I know this is the last place you'd want to be because you hated funerals. We met on my lawn in 1985 when you wanted to meet your new neighbor. Chomping on an unlit cigar, you said, "Hi, I'm Joel." And I said, "That sounds Jewish. Were you of the Jewish persuasion, are you?" After you said yes, I asked, "Are there many Jews here?" To which you replied, "Not yet, but at these prices, who do you think they're going to sell these houses to?" You had a heart of gold, though you almost didn't want people to know. Helping me with Sam and kids, you'll always have a challenging one. Spending time with Mishi, and me on our bicycles built for two. We were like the gay couple in town. And Rabbi quietly donating the prayer books to our synagogue to replace the old ones. Joel, you were always there, often quietly. And the work you did for me, you were the greatest partner in the world. Thank you. The trips, looking at properties from Mystic to Southold to Naugatuck. You'd always go on my crazy ideas, as long as there were egg whites in the morning, a nice lunch, and a nap on the way back. Even a flight to Martha's Vineyard in January. Climbing through a window of a house we bought sight unseen, we forgot the key, in a minority neighborhood. We then had a nice lunch, listed the house, and flew home. That was 10 years ago, almost to the day. That with Sharon back in New York, and you visited me for a week when I was in Hong Kong. We had a great time, but that was just the beginning. A full 10 years ago, when I'd push you to walk with me and to walk aggressively. So I'll end with a big thank you to you, Alana, for keeping my best friend with us for so long and against all odds. Joel, I already miss you. I love you. And one more. This is from Arthur Garfunkel.
You go.
I know.
You go.
It's not the same.
Not the
Oh, yeah.
That's me.
Curly hair. Dear Joel, today is your funeral, and I want to apologize for not being there to mourn and praise you. COVID has turned the world upside down. Turned the world upside down the last year, preventing us from being together. I want to thank you for your wisdom, generosity, and love. I will miss our lunches together, our trips to Vegas, your old-time jokes, our political discussions, and even your foul moods. I also want to let you know that I will continue to keep your memory alive, and I will never forget you. I will see you in about 25 years, and I hope they have bay scallops on the menu. Arthur. The Jewish writer and poet Hannah Senesh wrote, "There are stars whose light we see after the star itself is gone. And so too it is with people that we love, whose memory and spirit, who you have captured so beautifully today, continues to light the world after they have passed from it. They illumine for us a path. And like the stars at night that light up the dark sky, Joel's memory will continue to guide us and continue to light a path for us. A light that will guide us day by day, step by step, as we continue to live life fully and wholly. And may this light remind us too of the sources of comfort, encouragement, and support that surround us and enable us to find healing and strength. And this is what Joel has done for us. As we lower the casket, I'll recite the traditional blessing, El Malei Rachamim, in Hebrew, and translate, of course. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Amtsei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, B'ma'alot Kedoshim Utehorim, Zohar Harakia Masirim, Et Nishmat Yoel ben Emmanuel V'Frida, Shehalach Le'olamo, B'Gan Eden, Tehei Menuchato, Anabal Harachamim, Astirehu B'Seiter Knafecha Le'olamim, Bitzror HaChayim, Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'yanuach B'Shalom, Al Mishkavo, V'nomar, Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Yoel, Ben, Emmanuel, Matthew, and Frida, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. In Jewish tradition, it's considered an act of loving kindness, a mitzvah, a commandment, and an act of love to participate in the burial. And it is considered to be the final ritual act of shoveling earth into the vault. The final ritual act of honoring our loved one who has died. And the last act of kindness. that we can do for our loved one. And so we'll have that opportunity now for anyone who would like to shovel. Don't feel obligated, it's custom and at your comfort. The tradition is to first use the back of the shovel for the first shovel to demonstrate reluctance. You're reluctant to say goodbye, and when parting comes, it comes too soon. And so we don't want to use the shovel for its intended purpose. So for the shovel, we use the back of it, making it harder to use, and that's intentional. And then we shovel 2 more times with the shovel as we normally would shovel something. What I'd like to suggest, I know that the family would like to shovel so that traditionally the casket is covered completely with earth. So let us shovel first, whoever would like to. We'll conclude the service, and since it takes a while to continue the shoveling, we'll continue after the final benediction. So invite the family, anyone who would like to first, and then the rest of us to shovel as we go. Yeah. You can turn it over. You did the first shovel already. There you go.
Don't stick it in here.
Traditionally, we don't put the shovel, we don't throw the shovel back into the ground to the next person. Am I right?
Traditionally, actually, we do.
Okay.
We stick it back in the dirt so that we know that the next person, it is their mitzvah, their ritual.
I thought we handed it.
Yeah, no. You would think that would be the that would be the tradition.
Okay.
Yes. That's okay.
Not even close. We're waiting right until we finish the service.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a little counterintuitive.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah. You know, I did some work back there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up again. Everyone that I've seen.
I remember going to my friend Chef's. Yeah.
Somebody wants to
Would anyone else like to shovel? Welcome to do so.
should continue and then we shovel at the end.
Yeah.
I'll walk you.
Well, it's, no, I'm not. I'm watching.
Does anybody have a spade?
Do you have a spade, Brent? Do we have a spade? Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. No, it's great. You want a spade? Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay.
I thought you were asking for the card.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Oh. This poem is called We Remember Them. And so let's change the words today and remembering Joel to We Remember Him. If you'll recite that with me after each line. At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember him. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember him. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember him. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember him. As long as we live, Joel too will live in our hearts, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember him. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember him. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember him. And when we have achievements that are based on his, we remember him. As long as we live, Joel too will live in our hearts, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. I think we have some cottage cards. The final prayer, Mourner's Kaddish. Kaddish means sanctification or holiness. It affirms our awareness of holiness in the world. It's a difficult prayer if you're not familiar with it to recite in transliteration, so don't feel intimidated or feel like you need to recite something that is difficult and that you're not familiar with. This prayer says nothing about death, but it affirms our awareness of holiness and the awareness of God's presence. In other words, our experience of divine goodness, grace, and love. has come to us through those whose lives have touched our own. And so today the prayer is said in remembrance of Joel, invoking the transcendent power of love and caring as we sanctify God's name. We pray that there be peace for us, for all Israel, and all the world. Please rise.
Yes.
Yikadal, Yikadash, Shemei Rabbah, Yalma, Divrach, Yitei, Yamrich, Machutei, V'chayachon, V'ilmechon, V'chayei, T'chol, Yisrael, V'agalah, Zman, Yehi, Shmei Rabbah, V'rach, Le'olam, V'olei, Yitzhak, Yishtabach, Yitfarar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yithadar, Yithaleh, Yithalal, Shemed, Yishah, Richu, Leila, Michal, Birchata, V'shirata, Tushbechata, V'nechemata, Damiran, Yalma, V'imru, Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. May the blessing of God or all that sustains you bring you comfort and consolation, keep you and your loved ones safe, grant you peace, and fill you with all you need today and onward. Amen. That concludes this service. And we have an announcement before we continue the shoveling. The family would like to invite everyone after the service for light refreshments at Palm Valley Smokehouse.
If anyone needs to know where it is, basically around the corner.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi. Okay.
You spoke beautifully, everybody spoke so beautifully, prayers
Thank you. I think I was wrong. You do put the shovel in and then you pass it along. You don't hear it. Someone else actually.
And you know, if you Jews, there's so, there may be another opinion here.
Okay. Yeah, there's always a different opinion. Anybody wants to grab it? Well, my shovel is warm
I thought maybe the blonde because I saw you kind of looking like.
It didn't look good, but I said I would appreciate your shoes. Shoes were definitely one of the things that they came to see us in Australia one of the times. This was after you were there and we had some Prada loafers. I was just so excited.
Guys, save some dirt for the fish.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How you doing? Good. You seeing Matt or Larry or
No,
one of those
no
guys?
one yet.
Oh, okay.
No one yet. It's just,
Oh, yeah.
well, I don't, know, I see
Oh, but Sally likes to wait for it.
and basically,
Yeah, there's.
And I'll go with
Adam will
check it out. Yeah, we can help.
they're bummed out that something is
I was a good one.
Yeah, I know.
You did.
I don't want you to get a little sweat. Anybody else?
Yep, Uncle Johnny shovel. Want to?
No. How about if we have one shovel on behalf of the family members and friends who are with us virtually. We'll do that in their.
This is in the name of Zachary.
Yeah.
Do one for Nathan.
Would you like to do one for Rob? I would.
The shovel's in the name of Nathan.
Do one for,
This is for you, Rob.
The shovel's in the name of Mitch.
do one for Kenny.
The shovel's in the name of Penny. Here's for Rose.
You did one for Georgia? No.
The shovel's in the name of Georgia. Here's for Lola.
They wanted to be here.
The shovel's in the name of Maddie. Here's
Did
for
you want
Ruby.
Arthur yet?
No, I will.
You want for Arthur?
The shovel's in the name of Arthur. For
Harrison.
Nick's. The shovel's in the name of Sharon.
That was good.
Yes. We're going to do one for the grades.
The shovel's in the name of Harrison.
This is for little Bodie. This is for Quinn.
The shovel's in the name of
How about Rob?
Rob.
Good, Rob.
Rachel, I need you, Rachel.
Do one for Rachel.
Here, I'll do it. This is for Rachel.
We got everybody get one for Rose.
I got one for Rose.
You got one for Rose?
I got for Jeff.
No, I didn't. Let's give one for Jeff. How's your back? You sure? Jeffrey.
The shovel's in the name of Jeffrey.
And for Matt.
The shovel is the name of Matthew.
We cool? I think so.
As we have fulfilled the mitzvah of kavod hamed, respect and honoring our loved one who has died. We do that in the name of all of us here today, and all who are with us across the miles, who too have participated in this mitzvah. May Joel rest in peace. Amen. Service. Real pleasure and honor getting to know you and your family.